Hey everyone, welcome to a new edition of DeFi Weekly featuring how do flash loans work. Before we get started, I actually just wanted to let you know I have been listening to you guys and I went out and got a brand new Yeti Blue microphone. It's like one of the best you can get on the market, so that should greatly improve the audio quality. It's funny because I started these as a little experiment about 2 months ago, and it's been amazing to see that you guys care enough to complain about the audio. So I guess thanks for tuning in, and yeah, if you do have any suggestions, definitely do let me know, because I really want to make this great for you guys. So moving on, how do flash loans work? These flash loans are probably one of the most fascinating topics in crypto, because it's kind of like going to the bank, taking $10 million and then giving $10 million back while having $0 in your pocket. So if that sounds confusing, don't worry, we'll break it down how it actually works. But before we go into that, the thing which we need to understand is how do Ethereum transactions actually work. So when you have an Ethereum transaction, they're known to be deterministic. And in case you don't know what that means, that essentially means that you know what will happen given a set of inputs. And to maybe make that even more explicit, Ethereum is known as a state machine, right? And state meaning all the things which are ever in existence, it knows the state of that. And when you make a transaction on Ethereum, it's kind of like state machine plus transaction 1 gives you state machine 1, all right? And this is kind of like the crux of why this is deterministic, because if we have the existing state and then we modify it with the new transaction and we get the new state, we can basically check if all 3 of these things are valid. So of course the current state machine has to be valid. Is this transaction valid? And is the transaction, when it succeeds, going to be valid? And this is a really important property for how flash loans work, because if this transaction isn't valid, right, you can't actually execute this in the first place. So it's kind of like saying, I can do whatever I want, but I will know in advance if this is the wrong thing, and the network or the blockchain will reject any attempts for me to give this invalid transaction. So that is like the very basics of like an Ethereum transaction. Now, where this really gets interesting is the application of flash loans. So the way a flash loan typically works is that let's say we have a function. So a function in programming is like a method that does something, right? So in a flash loan, you can actually just say, for example, dYdX dot borrow $10 million, and this will actually work. And what you can do is, for this very limited duration, you have $10 million, and then let's say you do something else over here, and then you say dYdX dot pay back $10 million, right? So this little do something in the middle, this is your chance to know what life feels like if you had $10 million for a single transaction. Now you're saying, but what happens if I get rid of this last step? Now, because the way of dYdX is programmed, it will actually make this invalid if you don't call this over here. And that is literally the crux of how flash loan works. So it lets you borrow all the money in the bank as long as you pay it back at the end. And if you don't pay it back at the end, the transaction itself will be an invalid transaction, meaning you can't even submit it to the blockchain. And that's really crazy, because what people have done with this technology is that they've done a flash loan where, for example, like number one is borrow $10 million. Number two, manipulate the price of something. So like maybe like sell $10 million of ETH for a short duration. Number three is maybe buying something cheap since you tanked the price of ETH, and then you'd need to somehow get the amount that you've spent and pay it back. Or what some people have done is, in between this step, they open a short position. So they bet on the price going down, the price goes down, and then they repay their loan and essentially keep the profit, right? So if you look at it, flash loans are what we call like arbitrage opportunities. They let you exploit inefficiencies simply because you have a very large sum of money. And if you're thinking like, okay, how big can you get flash loans? And it's literally the amount of money in dYdX plus Aave at the moment, because you can essentially borrow all of the money in their protocol for 15 seconds, which is the time of one block. So I think this number is like at least anywhere between $20 million to $50 million. And the best part is that for people who want to find these exploits, if you only put in, say, like 0.001 ETH, so just enough for the transaction fee, and then you do something which doesn't make you a profit, and then you try and pay it back, because you haven't made a profit, you won't be able to pay this back, and the transaction will fail, or it won't even let you submit it to the network. So you can essentially like guess and check if the like exploit or thing that you're trying to execute is profitable. And if it's not profitable, it won't cost you a single dollar. And this is precisely why I think, like, when it comes to security in DeFi, it's so important that you have a competent team, because essentially the attacker has unlimited money, right? He can get a flash loan and mess you up. He has unlimited time, because the contract doesn't change, it's static on the blockchain. And on top of that, he has very little downside. So if he doesn't have to spend any money, right? And even when he does exploit it, no one will know who he is, because you can mix the money and make it anonymous and keep it as yours. So like, if you search up, and I've written about this on the newsletter, there's a thing called the dYdX attack, and someone used a flash loan twice and I think made about $800,000 across 2 transactions, or something crazy like 2,500 ETH from vague memory. I think there's another flash loan attack, but dYdX is the most famous one for this, because they relied on Uniswap for the price. And what someone did was they got a flash loan, opened a short position, sold all the money, and then this tanked the price on Uniswap, and then they paid back their loan and made away with the profits. And ultimately the people who lost were the dYdX lenders. And that's kind of like the other risk which you need to know when you're dealing with DeFi products, is that if something goes wrong, it's the protocol and all the users collectively who are at loss. So going back, we explained how Ethereum transactions works, how do flash loans work, and more importantly, why do people use them? For arbitrage opportunities or just to be malicious hackers. Is it legal? Is it good? I guess not, but this is the nature of permissionless finance, more or less. And yeah, that's about it, about how flash loans work. I hope that this was really useful for you guys, and if you have any requests, please let me know. I'm really enjoying making these videos and educating people, so leave in the comments if there's like a particular topic which you want to know more about, or a theme in general. And once again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, to the newsletter, and definitely follow me on Twitter. Catch you around, guys, and let me know what you think about the new microphone.